Hey everybody, welcome back. Finally, it's been a minute. Hi everybody, welcome back to Cynical. Finally, after a long hiatus, I'm finally back here making videos, many of which I started making in high school, and ever since graduating, I stopped making videos. In that time, I've made my own films, and finally graduated college, and I'm back here finally because I'm bored and I need something to do. 2024, I watched a lot of different films, though many of them were not new releases. A lot of them were rewatches of stuff I've seen 100 times because, well, 2024 was the kind of year where I needed some comfort movies, but still watched a bunch of brand new stuff in the year. So we're going to get on to top 10 movies of the year. Personal favorites are what I thought was generally the best. There was a ton of stuff I missed from the last calendar year, so I'm just going to list them all off right now and just get them out of the way. So, yeah, Nickel Boys, didn't see it because it's not really a release. Sing Sing because A24 can't release it. The Brutalist, there is one theater showing it where I live and I can't do it. It's way too long of a drive. Blink Twice, The Heretic, The End, Thelma, Problemista, why can't I say that name? Snack Shack, The First Omen, among many others that I obviously didn't mention here. Oh, and No Other Land, the documentary that still hasn't been picked up for any distribution because of the... So, without further ado, and a couple of honorable mentions that I'll just throw on screen right here, right now. Okay, great. Let's go. Wicked is one of the most fun times I've had at the theater this year, and that alone gets it on this list. Often I find that movie musicals lean into two different extremes. Either they are too theatrical, where they feel just like the stage musicals they're adapting and don't really feel like films, or they're too embarrassed to be proper musicals and therefore don't commit to the storytelling techniques that only a musical can do. Wicked isn't either of those. It fully embraces its stage musical origins while changing and working it into a proper feature film. The musical numbers are very well choreographed. Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are fantastic, and the film's musical numbers are wonderfully done. My only knock on the film is its direction. The staging can make some of the world feel a bit stagey and empty, and despite the great cast, production values, and source material to pull from, I feel as though a stronger director could have really pushed this over the edge to make it much better. Think of Spielberg's work on West Side Story, or even Dexter Fletcher's work on Rocketman, two very different kinds of musicals, but ones that show how great these stories can be told on film, with just a bit of visual flair and energy. This isn't that bad, but where it falls short in some areas, it exceeds in so many others that I can't deny how much I was enthralled while watching it. Robert Eggers has been the master of dark, atmospheric, period set horror for the past decade, and this film is no exception. This is an incredibly personal film, as the director made a stage play based on the original 1921 film, which helped him as a stepping stone for him becoming a feature film director and being an obsession of his from a young age. This is a clear passion project with gorgeous cinematography, a bleak atmosphere, and some of the best performances of the entire year. Every frame of this is as depressing as it is haunting, even before we're introduced to Count Orlok. It explores the themes of lust and love in a really profound and nuanced way that leaves a sense of sadness and tragedy. As to why it's not higher on this list, well, it's complicated, except to say I wished it engaged me more. I wanted to feel the tragedy more, the fear more, and spend more time with the Count, and just more of everything, I guess. It's all there and it's very engaging, but it's not as engaging as some of the other films on this list. Maybe one day I'll revisit this film and love it even more, like I did with The Lighthouse, but for now, it's another great film in what's an already stellar filmography from Robert Eggers. The Monkey Man is a brutal revenge action film written, directed, produced, and starring Dev Patel, and it kicks so much ass. This is not only one of the best action films of the year, but a film with a lot on its mind and a lot to say. The film may be a basic, straightforward revenge story, but what it does within the confines of that kind of narrative is where it really thrives. The details in the world building, spending a lot of time with our main character Kid so we can feel his anger, and getting to hate the oppressive government that rules over this fictional version of India, and the struggles he deals with, it's all incredible. All the fight scenes are extremely well shot and photographed with wonderful handheld camera work and frenetic editing. It's just such an expertly directed and crafted film, and one that is very on the fly and very sloppy, but at the same time is very specific and precise. You can tell how much energy and passion Dev Patel put into this project because, well, there isn't a lot of action movies with men that look like him. Honestly, it was really cool and exciting to see how much representation is in this project. It was a clear passion project for him, and it shows on screen, and it's easily one of the best movies of last year. Yeah, that high. I've noticed Longlegs has been pretty divisive since its release, with some thinking it's stupid and dull, and others finding it creepy and engaging. And I definitely fall into the latter camp. Osgood Perkins delivers such a terrific horror thriller that it had me engaged from beginning to end with its amazing cinematography, mystery that is both genuinely engaging and not easily predictable, and a wonderfully insane Nicolas Cage performance who is near unrecognizable as Longlegs. Well, except for that bit where he lets out a screech in that car. But putting that aside, this is still one of the best of the year for the mystery it creates and how it ties back into the film's larger ideas about trauma and parental relationships. It's not a film that's constantly force-feeding you information. It lets you sit and hold on these ideas for long periods of time, and it's really effective at getting under your skin. It's one of the best horror films and thrillers of the year, and I think the film is a must-see for fans of either genre. I'm a big fan of the Mad Max saga, and especially George Miller as a filmmaker. At 79 years old, George is making the kind of action epic that most filmmakers even half his age wish they could make. He already showed that he is a master of action and non-stop thrills in Fury Road and even in The Road Warrior back in '81. And here, he challenges himself to take the world of Mad Max and create a personal, anger-driven revenge epic with the larger-than-life characters, arguably the best performance of Chris Hemsworth's career as Dementus, amazing action, and a quiet, understated performance by Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa. It's exactly the kind of personal, filmmaker-driven spectacle that I absolutely love and wish more studios would greenlight. It has a bigger scale than any previous Mad Max film and has a lot of context and backstory that actually adds to the story of Fury Road and not take away from it, which a lot of prequel films can't do when not handled properly. Despite all this, absolutely no one saw this, not even diehard film fans. It was a massive box office bomb, and sadly this might end up being the last film in the series due to its commercial failure, which is an absolute shame. Even if you haven't seen any of the previous Mad Max films, this still works as a standalone action epic that pushes the boundaries of what can be done with action filmmaking. A Different Man was, without a doubt, the best dark comedy of last year. It's hard to talk about it without spoiling it, as so much of the entertainment derived from it is due to its setup and premise. But what I can say about it, though, is that it's an especially clever and yet dark film about acceptance and how the world perceives us. It's a film that could have been a horrible, offensive nightmare if not approached carefully, and yet it does so and then some. Sebastian Stan not only gives one of my favorite performances from him, but also maybe the entire year. His descent from a meek and sympathetic to cold and disturbing character is absolutely terrific, and I can't believe it's taken me this long for me to fall in love with him as a performer. He's always been good as Bucky in the Marvel films, but between this and The Apprentice, he's quickly become possibly my favorite actor to come out of the Marvel Studios machine. Oh, and Adam Pearson. I don't have anything else to say other than just Adam Pearson. This man is an absolute treasure. Do yourself a favor and look up any interview he's given promoting the film. He is wonderful.
Legally Blonde is the greatest underdog story in cinema. People are like, oh, what about Rocky? Well, you look at Stallone and think, yeah, you could probably handle yourself in a boxing ring. Whereas you look at Reese Witherspoon and think, Harvard Law, jog on, sweetheart. And then she does it and gives that amazing speech at the end. And you're like, yes, I wish you did do it. Woo!
I honestly wish I had more to say about this, but it's better you go into this completely blind and watch this plot unfold. I was shocked at how much I loved it, and I can't wait to watch this again. Every critic and cinephile on Earth loves this film, and yeah, so do I. I love it when a body horror is done properly, and this film is one of the best examples of how great that genre can be. This film is by no means subtle or in the least bit quiet when it comes to its themes and messaging. It is very in your face, super over the top, and unapologetically gory. This film does not shy away from the body horror or the transformations that Elizabeth goes through, and thus can be really, really uncomfortable to watch, both because of its violent and sexual content. But if you're like me and are able to look past the extreme content of a film, you'll find one of the best and most unique films of last year. Demi Moore gives a wonderfully grounded performance in a completely silly and exaggerated Hollywood. She seeks to ground the film and make the preposterous scenarios feel grounded and real, even when what's happening on screen is completely ridiculous. Margaret Qualley is also great as the younger alternative version of Elizabeth, and the film builds to the climax so over the top and violent that I had multiple walkouts at my showing when I went to go see it. It's insane and crazy, but in the best way possible. I'm absolutely happy with how much attention and traction it's gotten, and hoping this has way more legs at the Academy Awards, because the thought of an organization like the Academy having to recognize a gross body horror movie is incredible, especially with how much they usually ignore horror films. Sean Baker has been one of the best, most innovative filmmakers of the last decade, making films about really touchy subject matters such as sex work in a way that's both very sympathetic but also very delicate at the same time. The way he tells it is different each time, but the way that he conveys his characters and the empathy and heart he brings to each one of these projects is undeniable. Anora is maybe the best example of this, as we follow a sex worker who falls in love with a son of a rich Russian oligarch and they get married, and then wacky comedic shenanigans that feel straight out of a Safdie Brothers film unfold. Mikey Madsen's performance is just incredible. The cast is super memorable and funny. It goes from really dramatic Cinderella story to insane screwball comedy in the matter of a couple of minutes, but the tonal switch is so perfect. And when you get hit with that final sequence and stuff, it just hits you like a ton of bricks. Sean Baker is just really great at telling these really personal stories, and I don't feel at all that he is exploitative or even in the least bit thoughtless when it comes to portraying these characters. It's weird to go from a really dramatic piece like Anora to Challengers, but god damn, was this one of the most fun movies I watched this year. Challengers has such an amazing cast, a wonderful sense of energy, perfect pacing, perfect editing, a wonderful score by Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross. Just everything you want from a movie is in this. Except for that threesome that they tease in the trailers. That doesn't happen. What the fuck do I even follow that up with? Challengers is just one of those special films that came out early in the year and never just really left my mind. Challengers is just so fun, so engaging, and so thoughtful. The way that it explores toxic relationship feels super over the top and yet genuine at the same time, and I think a lot of that has to do with the performances. Josh O'Connor, Mike Feist, and Zendaya give some of the best performances of the entire year. It feels genuine and real, and what Luca Guadagnino is so good as a director is exploring these relationships between people and how they affect one another, how poisonous and toxic their relationships are to one another. Every single character, you can see their perspective, but every single one of the characters is toxic and manipulative in their own way, where you start to look at them funny. Patrick's an asshole, but so is Art, and so is Tashi. Every character in this is poisonous, venomous, and toxic to one another, and yet you can't stop looking at them. You don't know who you're rooting for or whose side you're on. I've seen multiple interpretations of like people who project their own feelings onto the characters, and they decide, is Patrick the one in the right, and is Art the one in the right, is Tashi the one in the right? And the answer is really none of them are. These are all just three toxic people that would probably be fine individually on their own, but just somehow bring the worst out of each other. And the way that you see these relationships evolve over the span of years, over the course of the movie, is really clever. The film has a really unconventional narrative structure where it's constantly flashing back to when they were younger, and you never feel lost. The editing is perfect, and the pacing is just excellent. It's one of the best movies of the year, and despite the fact that I've seen so many great films since, this was always near the top of my list. I'm just kidding, but imagine if I actually did. For anyone who kind of knows me personally on any sort of level, you kind of know how much I love Dune. I read the novel when it was announced Denis Villeneuve would be directing the film, and I just wanted to see this giant sci-fi epic really come to life. There was the failed version by David Lynch in the 80s, and it had always been a notorious film production and book that was seen as completely unfilmable. So to see that this series has become a massive success is nothing short of a miracle. And yeah, the film is that good. Dune is a really tricky source of material to adapt. It's a lot of characters standing around, explaining exposition and space politics, really complex backstories, and most of them are kind of planks of wood who kind of stand around and have the plot explain or happen to them. But the way that Denis Villeneuve is able to personify these characters, to bring them to life, is nothing short of incredible. Paul's journey throughout this film and the scope in which they tells it in is nothing short of incredible. Every performance of this is super memorable. The cinematography is gorgeous. This is some of Hans Zimmer's best work. I wasn't the biggest fan of his first Dune score, or really a lot of his scores in recent years, barring a few exceptions, but here his work is exceptional. It was easily the film score I listened to the most this year, next to Challengers. This is one of those great sci-fi epics that just rarely come out and stick the landing. Often these high budget productions can feel tacky or incomplete, but this film just feels so personal, so tactile, and so well polished that it's undeniable how good this actually works. Dune is a film that should not work as well as it does. It's a film that shouldn't exist. And yet it was the film that resonated the most, and the one that I kept coming back to over and over again as the year went on. Going to see this twice in IMAX and then bringing it home, the film just still works. It's not a film that's reliant on spectacle and scale. It's thrilling, it's engaging, it has an amazing cast, and yeah, my #1 movie of the year.